A fireball on a fast break, a snake around the rim, and a social media sensation. He amassed an audience reaching far past the grounds of basketball fanaticism because he was a walk-in highlight reel. People across the world knew his name, and children flocked to stores to buy his shoes within minutes of release. In 2022, he came second to Stephen Curry in terms of total social media viewership, overtaking LeBron James, an incredible feat given his company. In 2023, his signature shoe, the Ja 1, sold over 40,000 units on the popular shoe seller StockX. The face of the Memphis Grizzlies, the face of Nike footwear, and at one point, the next face of the NBA. That's Ja Morant. The South Carolina native had the world in the palm of his hands. But Morant had a problem, a quasar whose radiance illuminates the path while simultaneously leaving devastation in its wake. His star power magnified every step he took, and for a man prone to stumbling, that meant the entire world would be aware of his misfootings. And his problem could be best summed up as walking backwards onto the highway. Viewing Morant's rise to the top gave us a good glimpse at his shortcomings long before the storm approached. Major character concerns would be the arrow that caused the man's rapid fall, because every mistake he made was off the court. Ja Morant had an affinity towards portraying himself as a desperado. At a point, he appeared to be more outlawed than professional athlete. I must state, Ja Morant has never been convicted of any criminal or illegal activity. Normally, that would be the end of the story. I mean, the guy doesn't even have an infraction. There's no criminal record. What's there to discuss? Well, rules are a little different when you're selling sneakers to Lil Jimmy and starring in Uber Eats commercials. Let's start from Morant's first blip of controversy, which was when he replied to a Twitter user who insulted him back in May of 2022. The user called the NBA player Kitty Whip, let's keep things PG, to which Morant replied, "It's free to see how hollows feel." To state the obvious, a public figure who was as widely known as Morant threatening someone with the use of deadly force is not going to go over well. He was universally slammed for the malicious comment and quickly deleted his reply. I'll go over the concrete controversies because this guy has a lot of allegations surrounding him, and some have no legitimate evidence, only hearsay. A couple months after this exchange, in the summer, Ja would reportedly be involved in a real-life altercation during a pickup game at his home. Now, this story was reported on months after it initially occurred because that's when the alleged victim pressed charges. 17-year-old victim claimed he was beaten and jumped by Morant and his posse. The altercation began after tensions rose during their pickup game. The victim claimed he threw the basketball with force towards Morant in retaliation because the Memphis point guard had done the same to him first, and according to him, the beatdown happened right after, and later Morant returned from inside his home with a firearm by his waist. Ja Morant admitted to the police that he swung on the teen first. He stated it was all in self-defense because the boy had pulled his pants up after throwing the ball at his head, a known sign of provocation. Morant also alleged that the boy had threatened to light up his place like fireworks when he was leaving. He had filed a police report weeks after the incident stating the boy had threatened his family. The prosecutor's office dropped the case due to a lack of evidence. The victim's family in this lawsuit demanded $20 million in compensation. Ultimately, the judge ruled in favor of Morant, stating he had acted in self-defense. And in this case, Morant was in the right. In March of 2023, an intoxicated Morant went live on Instagram from a Denver gentleman's club, waving what seemed to be a firearm carelessly. This foolish gesture would spark immense backlash and would lead to a police investigation. The investigation led nowhere since he didn't do anything illegal, but the NBA stepped in to punish the unhinged star. He was suspended 8 games due to conduct detrimental to the league. He reportedly entered a counseling program following the incident, stating that he learned from his mistake and accepted full responsibility for the matter. He, in fact, did not learn from his mistake. Just 2 months after the club incident, he appeared once again on an Instagram livestream, this time on his friend's account, while in his car where he, you guessed it, brandished a firearm. Morant tried to explain that the weapon was in fact a lighter, which it could have been, But you'd think someone with a fully developed brain would have the basic wisdom to understand that he, of all people, should avoid anything that is even remotely shaped like a firearm. But Commissioner Adam Silver had no tolerance to spare for a repeat offender and imposed a draconian 25-game suspension on him. Ja displayed a level of immaturity that ambushed most who were familiar with him. His attitude never appeared to be one so brazen. He portrayed himself as a hard-working young man who was raised by two loving, supportive parents. His dad is his biggest supporter, sitting courtside at every game. Where did this tough, ruthless image come from? Was losing nearly $100 million altogether worth the nil street cred he garnered from his actions? I mean, you're a professional basketball player and you're acting like you're still on the block. The ramifications of his suspension will be felt throughout the remainder of his career, a career that still has much left to blossom. Ja Morant's salvation will be entirely dependent on his decisions on and off the court moving forward.
I've lost my reputation, I've lost the immortal part of me, and what remains is bestial.
His 25-game suspension plus his injury, which sidelined him for almost the entirety of the 2024 season, may have been a blessing. Ja has been good since his suspension because when you know he's not in the headlines, that means he's doing something right. A season away from the spotlight meant he's evaded any permanent etchings on his narrative. Take someone like Kevin Durant or D'Angelo Russell. Both of them will never outlive their past no matter what they do in the present day. But the dialogue surrounding Ja Morant currently is of excitement at the return of the game's most electrifying point guard. Because no matter what Ja's issues off the court are, even in the middle of the storm's fury, he's balled out. In the 9 games he appeared in last season, he averaged an all-NBA caliber stat line of 25 points, 8 assists, and 5.5 rebounds on 57% true shooting. He is a production machine when he's available. 2 years ago in the 2021-22 season, he was on top of the West battling for conference supremacy. The ferocious Memphis Grizzlies had mauled their way up the food chain and stood over the Western Conference with a record of 56 wins to 26 losses. At age 22, Morant was the V12 that powered the Grizzlies' offense, averaging 27, 7, and 6 on nearly 50% from the field. Ja Morant had stated himself he is ducking no smoke, and if you've watched any of his almost posters, you're aware that that fact is irrefutable. He is lightning incarnate with shades of prime Dwayne Wade and the athleticism of Russell Westbrook at his apex. He's also a playoff riser. In his most notable postseason series, which was against the Golden State Warriors, Morant averaged an astonishing 38 points, 8 assists, and 7 rebounds. Those 6 competitive games felt like this young Memphis squad's coming out party. They'd impressively pushed their weight up against the eventual champions despite being infants at that stage. They had Jaren Jackson Jr., who'd go on to win Defensive Player of the Year in 2023, and Desmond Bane, who's proven himself to be a capable scorer in Morant's absence, having a career year in 2024. They unfortunately lost Dillon Brooks, who was the heartbeat of this team, but adding Marcus Smart to the roster has given them a starting lineup which will feature 2 Defensive Player of the Years, one in the front court and one in the back court. And for a unit that was a top 2 defense not too long ago back in 2023, they have a chance to form something special on that end. The Western Conference has only bolstered its forces in Morant's absence, so the trail up the mountain is steep. Most projections have the Grizzlies slated to win around 45 to 48 games next season, which would place them between the 7th and 10th seed. It's not necessarily that they're a bad team with Ja Morant, they have plenty of talent. The problem is the Western Conference is an unforgiving environment, and it's so stacked that simply having assets and winning formula isn't enough. The abundance makes the margins paper thin, but this also means that any team can leapfrog to the front if they play their cards right. Across an 82-game schedule, the difference between the 10th seed and the 1st seed can come down to 10 games. If they catch fire at the right time, we could see this team return to their spot amongst the Giants. And with a roster who's had the opportunity to improve with their star player away, the Grizzlies could make some noise. If Ja Morant comes into the 2024-25 season with his laser-focused mentality and the hunger to earn his redemption, the Memphis Grizzlies will become a true contender. Ja has stepped away from the game he loves, and he's had a year to reflect and grow. As we approach the beginning of the 2025 season, soon we will witness this new version of the man. Has he changed for the better? Well, we gotta wait till tip-off to answer that question. Thanks for watching.